For more on all of this, we are pleased to be joined from Newsmax New York by former New York Police Commissioner Bernie Kerik. He's also the former interim Minister of the Interior in Iraq. And Bernie is the author of the book From Jailer to Jailed. Also joining us via telephone, we have a member of the House Committee on Homeland Security, my old colleague on Capitol Hill, New York Republican Congressman Peter King. Bernie, first to you. They caught this suspect in relatively short order. His motivations seemed to be obvious, and yet the mayor of New York and the governor of the Empire State were very reluctant to call this terrorism in the early going. Your take on all of that?
Well, look, anytime you place a bomb or an explosive device in a place to maim, kill, or murder people, that would be included in the capacity of terrorism. I think it's pretty obvious. I know people want to be politically correct and they don't want to get out there and say something they shouldn't say, but at the end of the day, placing a bomb in a public place to hurt people is a terroristic act.
Peter King, as you join us via telephone, apparently Ahmad Khan Rahami was known to authorities. Indeed, he seems to be the model of a modern Muslim terrorist. He and his dad and brother apparently had filed suit against law enforcement sometime in the recent past. What do you know about the suspect?
Yeah, first of all, it's great to be with you and with my good friend Bernie Kerik, a terrific guy. And Bernie, we have to have dinner this weekend if you can work it out. But in any event, while I'm with you, JD, it's a privilege. What I do know about him is that he has a criminal background. He was charged with assault. My understanding is he tried to stab his own sister. And as far as the lawsuit against the local police, the local town, I'm also aware of that. Apparently, he was claiming he was being discriminated against or harassed or whatever else he was saying. But one of the reasons they were able to locate him once they got the prints and everything was because of his criminal record. That made it easier. And but again, I just have to say, and Bernie's the expert in this, but this is just phenomenal police work to solve this case in less than 48 hours. I mean, it's just amazing to me. And I just think NYPD, FBI, and again, the police in Linden, New Jersey, all deserve credit. But I was down at the crime scene yesterday, and I'll tell you, people say it was an amateur's bomb. It may have been, but it's a miracle no one was killed. That thing, it threw a giant dumpster halfway down 23rd Street and across the street. I mean, it was halfway down the block and across the street. If people had been right in front of that or near it, they would have been. And also, there were ball bearings everywhere. So it was really a miracle no one was killed. It's just, again, thank God for that. And really thank God for the NYPD and the FBI. They did a great job.
And Bernie, while Peter talks about the NYPD and the FBI, we note for the record that this suspect was caught in Linden, New Jersey. Obviously, the FBI, the NYPD start this intensive investigation, but who really gets the credit? Is the coordination and cooperation among these law enforcement agencies the key to today's apparent success?
You know what, JD? That's a really good question, because the bottom line is they all deserve the credit. And one of the failures that we've had in past histories was that the local, state, and federal authorities wouldn't communicate with each other. We now see where that's all changed. Our intelligence capabilities are far better today than they were on September 10th of 2001. And as a result of those capabilities, now you see things like this happening, where they put this entire thing together within 48 hours, within 24 hours after the placement of the device the other night. They've got a guy in custody, and I'm sure they'll get to the bottom of this. But it's phenomenal police work, as the congressman said. Nobody knows better than he does. He was the House and Chair of Homeland Security. This was phenomenal police work. Local, state, federal officials, and I want to just send my thoughts and prayers out to the Linden PD. I know their chief really well, Jonathan Parham, who just took over that job 2 weeks ago. He has a guy now that's been shot in the chest, in the vest, a guy shot in the hand, and I hope they get well and get well fast.
Pete, let me turn to you because during my days in Congress post 9/11, I would hear some complaints from local law enforcement saying, "Hey, when it comes to terror issues, the FBI is shutting us out." Now, obviously, that was before you served your time as chairman of the House Homeland Security Committee. But are you satisfied, to Bernie's point, and maybe we've seen it today, that we now have the right kind of cooperation between the small town police forces, the county sheriff department, and the major operations such as the FBI and NYPD?
JD, we've come a long way. It's light years ahead of where it was on and before September 11th. It's still not perfect in certain cases. Like, for instance, a few years ago at the Boston Marathon bombing, I think the FBI, unfortunately, before the bombing, had not given information to the Boston police, which may have prevented that attack from happening. But overall, it's light years ahead. And certainly I can tell you in this investigation, from everything I could see, I was down there yesterday, I was talking to the cops, talking to the FBI agents. They were one. They were seamless. I mean, you couldn't tell the difference between one and the other as far as the level of interest they had and the level of cooperation.
Gentlemen, let's turn to some of the rhetorical responses. For example, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo spoke to the media shortly after the bombing and took great pains to try and differentiate the different styles of terrorism. Here's the way he put it the other day.
A bomb exploding in New York is obviously an act of terrorism, but it's not linked to international terrorism. In other words, we find no ISIS connection, etc. But a bomb going off is generically a terrorist activity.
You know, Bernie, I hear that, and I'm sorry, but I go back to the old bromide, better to be thought a fool than to open your mouth and leave no doubt. What on earth is the governor trying to say there?
You know what, JD? I mean, this goes back to the whole political correct thing where some of our political leaders, they try not to say anything to insult anyone or say anything that's wrong. The governor was right in that it's a terrorist act, but he may have also been right that there was no international links at the time. But they're walking this line, this fine line, not to say anything wrong, to stay politically correct. And I just think, you know what, call it what it is. Call it what it is. Let the American people know it's better for them, it's better for us, it's better for the authorities. You got to tell the American public what's going on out there. They know what to look for. They just got to stop with the political correct stuff.
Well, apart from the politically correct interpretations of the New York governor and the mayor of New York City, let's go to what we actually saw in Linden, New Jersey. A restaurant owner there calling the cops and obviously telling them what happened. How vital is the see something, say something framework, Peter King?
JD is absolutely essential. Really, at every stage in this matter where the public was involved, they did the right thing. The bomb on 27th Street, that was actually reported by a civilian.
And you know, you mentioned that, Pete. Let's take a listen to that 66-year-old photographer, Jane Schriebman, who called it in. This comes courtesy of WABC TV.
I saw this cot. I mean, you can't help but take notice of a pot in the middle of the sidewalk with wires coming out of it. And then the wires went into like something the size of a cell phone. And I thought that looks like a child's science experiment that they threw out. They always say if you see something suspicious, call. And I said, well, this is suspicious.
And that was her subsequent interview with WABC TV. Bernie Kerik, in the minute we have remaining, you know, she said something after seeing something. We heard the happy report, we believe now, from the New Jersey restaurateur, and yet there's always that political correctness. We think about President Obama and the clock boy with his alleged science project down in Dallas. Mixed signals, to say the least, coming from the White House and other politically correct politicians. 40 seconds for your response, sir.
I think at some point in time we have to come to the realization that there's a radical Islamic movement against the West. We have to fight it, battle it abroad and here, and our politicians have to be able to say what it is to educate the American public. And without doing that, these things are going to continue to enhance and grow, and that's not what we want.
Bernie Kerik from Newsmax New York. Peter King joining us via telephone from his district there on Long Island. Gentlemen, we appreciate your time. We would be remiss if we did not note that other attack over the weekend in St. Cloud, Minnesota, from a knife-wielding Somali. There's much more to talk about, and for your comments as well as you call in on America Talks Live, Hour 2.